Good morning, prayer warriors and those who love us. So, we're here for another day in ICU. Zachary had kind of a rough night last night because we had to restrain him more, so he didn't pull out all his tubes and things. And of course, you know, he understands very little, so it's very frustrating to be restrained. And he pulled off his covers over and over again, even though it was cooler in the room, and we were able to restrain him enough to not pull out tubes. And I got some sleep. I slept in the room again with him, and he only had a little bit of homemade chicken soup broth that Tim had made yesterday to get started on eating without having a feeding tube. And we just gave him a little bit of that. That's all that could be allowed, because this morning he was to have a brachioscope, which is basically going into his lungs and finding out what's going on with the inflammation and how things look inside there. And so they couldn't have anything in his stomach for that. They're going to give him an anesthetic that kind of puts him out a little bit to do that and find out. He got late last night, he got the blood transfusion, and we haven't seen any reactions to that. We don't expect to. The blood transfusion was for red blood cells. His body just didn't have enough red blood cells, and his body is so inflamed and it's trying to fight the infection of the virus, of the pneumonia, that it's having a hard time making red blood cells and fighting it. So we needed to give him a transfusion because it was seriously, very serious, low blood count number, red blood count number. That seemed to have gone well, and so thankfully, thank God, all that's going well. I'm hoping today that I'll be able to feed him more and he'll be able to handle that, and he'll continue to get stronger and stronger today. We also have some great news. I got a phone call from the center that Zachary attends. There's centers here in Germany that special needs people can go to, and they have just a wonderful, wonderful program for each region. After World War II, during World War II, the Germans killed all special needs people. They were killed. They weren't even allowed to live. And after World War II, and that ended, they went back to, as babies were born and they were special needs, they started to set up new programs for the special needs people. And so they've been at it for a few decades here, and they've come up with these great regional centers. It's just magnificent. It's I've never seen anything so beautiful and wonderful. People so kind and generous. And Zachary was able to get in there, and he gets to go 5 days a week, and he loves it. The place where he's at is for people who are not well enough along in order to be able to work, but to give them activities during the day. So he's a part of a group that has about 7 people in total in it, 7 clients, they call them, in total in the group. And it's a room that's a big spacious room with a kitchen in it and tables, and they do activities throughout the day. So they might do some puzzles, they might do some crafts, and eat food together, and brush your teeth, get everything done. So they just have a really great time, and Zachary absolutely loves it. So the caregivers there are 2 of them that are coming today to visit Zachary, and he will love that. He really gets strengthened by seeing his friends, those that love him, he gets excited about that, and that gives him a lot of strength. So I'm looking forward to that, and they're just lovely, lovely people, just amazing people. So really looking forward to that. So there's probably going to be a lot happening today. Zachary's a lot more active, and I'm a lot more there with him. I woke up and I just felt like singing to the boy. He really wasn't feeling well. You can imagine, with not being able to eat much and feeling weak and feeling restrained, the poor kid. But he's a poor man now, I guess. He's 23. So I just felt like singing. So I sang some praise songs to him gently, and just sat with him. That's about all you can do. Sometimes, you can't take away the pain all the time. So that brings me up to what I want to share with everyone today. I want to talk to everyone who is either a caregiver or receives care. In one time or another, most people have been on both sides, having to take care of other people, or they themselves needing to be taken care of. If you've been a child, which all of you have been, then you've had your parents caring for you, or other people, whether it's institutions, peoples, churches, foster parents. So there's the caregivers, and then there's the receivers. So I'm going to talk on this topic because I think there's a lot of fear and guilt around being a caregiver and a receiver of care. It may come from the dynamic that happens, may come from health issues, marriages, businesses, working for a boss, or working in the service industry, any kind of jobs, and family dynamics, even friends. So this happens throughout our life in our relationships. And one thing that we're not taught is how to do it, how to either be a caregiver or a care receiver in a balanced way, where we can really encourage each other in the middle of a very difficult thing. Because in truth, neither the caregiver or the care receiver have all the power, or else the care would not be needed. And I think people feel guilty on both sides. The caregivers feel guilty that they don't have more to give, and it's never enough, and they get into perfectionism. And the caretaker can also feel guilty needing to receive care, and feeling frustrated that they feel like maybe all of their needs aren't being gotten, and it's very frustrating and restraining, like Zachary's feeling. And so there's a lot of bad feelings that happen around it, and I think a lot of times we try to stuff those feelings behind either irritation or behind guilt, and trying to do it well enough to be pleasing and acceptable and accepted on all sides. And I think it is a tactic, honestly, of Satan to keep us all bound up. So it's an important topic, and I want to share how God would like us to handle being on both sides of this issue. And the main way that I'm going to do this is to bring us back to the greatest commandments, the two greatest commandments that Christ talks about, which is love God with your whole heart, might, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Christ talks about this. You can find this in the scripture in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37, Mark chapter 12, verse 30, and Luke chapter 10, verse 27. I bet you most people don't even know that those two greatest commandments are actually found first in the Old Testament. Christ was quoting those commandments from the New Testament, the first 5 books of Moses. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, you can find the commandment that says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart." And it goes on. So that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it that Christ said was like this command. He said, just like this command, um, was this next part that we all know about, the second greatest commandment that we know of, which is found in Leviticus chapter 19, the end of verse 18. I suggest reading all of chapter 19. It's quite good and shows you how exactly some of the ways to love your neighbor. But it says, "But you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." So at the end of all this, it's put, "I am the Lord." A Lord is someone who you obey, that lords over you, protects you, takes care of. That's what the lords do. They protect those underneath, and they need those that are underneath their care to do what he says so that everyone can be safe. So how do you love your neighbor as yourself? Notice there's two parts to this. There's loving your neighbor as yourself. So you have a responsibility here of understanding how to balance out loving yourself and loving your neighbor within this commandment. And so that's the important thing, is to understand that we do need to live a balanced life. And doing this actually is loving God. And we have to take care of ourselves each. The caretakers need to take care of themselves the best they can and be a part of their own needs. And the caregivers need to understand that they can't do it all, and they only have a portion to do it all. We all have limitations, whether you're a caretaker or a caregiver. Both sides have limitations, and I think that's the most scary. And really, this should create opportunity for us. It creates opportunity for us to see our limitations and not play like we can do it all on our own. We all like to live in this bubble of believing we're powerful enough to take care of ourselves and get all of our needs met, and we don't need anybody or anything. And the truth is, if you're human, you're weak and you can't do it all. We try to play God and think that we're responsible to do it all perfectly and take care of ourselves. And the truth is God knew we would be weak. He knows we are weak. And the idea is to come to a real clear 100% understanding that we are weak and can't do it all, and trust Him to make up the difference. So both sides need to learn how to really be honest with what they can and can't do. And it's an opportunity, the only genuine place of opportunity to grow in being able to trust that God will make up the difference. And also to be okay with only being told to do part of the job. Yesterday, when I was walking, I walked downstairs for just a second to go get some stuff and then come back into the room. And while I was going back, Tim was taking care. No one was here. No one was here. I just went downstairs for a minute from the hospital. I wasn't in his room. And I was on my way back, and there was this man in a gurney, an older man in a gurney that was lying there, and he was crying. He was outside an x-ray room or some kind of technical room, and he was out there all alone crying. And unfortunately, I had Zachary, who pulls things out, and he himself could die if he's not watched well in some ways. And I felt like I was in a dilemma. I was thinking, my heart's going out to this man. I want to stop and be there with him. Of course, he speaks German, and I don't speak German very well. And I have my son. And it's one of those times where you kind of go, okay, so what? I mean, there's more for me to do here, possibly with my time, than I can possibly get done. There is no win with this. And I had to breathe and to recognize my limitation and say, Father, I'm going to take care of what you've given to me first, which is your son Zachary, and I'm just going to pray for that man and trust you that you are going to bring peace and comfort to that man and help him out. You know that with compassion I would stop for him, and there's just more work here for me to do than I can. So I trust that you are the all-powerful, you are the all-comforter, and really you are the all-loving God, and you know the needs of every single human being. And I'm going to walk forward in faith knowing that you're that big and I don't have to be that big. And so you end up in these dilemmas on all sides where the needs are bigger than the ability to fulfill them. So in those situations, it's really important to go back to God and to accept your limitation, share your limitation with Him and your frustration with Him. And in patience, do your best to take care of yourself. I need rest. The only way that I'm going to take care of Zachary or anyone else is to rest properly. And so otherwise, I will be someone that people need to give care to me, and I won't be able to help others. So you find a balance there, and you know before God that you're doing your best, and He's going to bring the rewards of doing that because you trust in Him to be the full answer. And I just want to touch lightly that none of us have power over death. It is an illusion. And if you have death issues, you can't truly live and enjoy what life you have, just genuinely live with it. So you may want to pray about those death issues and go back to God and ask Him to help you to feel more comfortable about it, because death is not the end. It is a transition into a different life, and it is definitely no fun, and people don't like missing other people that pass on, and people that are passing on don't like it because sometimes there's pain involved, or they're afraid of the unexpected, of what they don't know, and they don't want to leave their loved ones. And all of that's true, but it's out of our control. And those things that are out of our control are an opportunity, listen to me, an opportunity to accept that we are out of control and to trust that God is so loving and He is in control, and it will all make sense, and He will take care of our loved ones better than us because He loves them better than us, and He will take care of us. And it's okay for us not to get all of what we think our needs are. God knows what our needs are, and sometimes we need to suffer like Christ suffered to learn the things we need to learn. So I hope this has encouraged everyone. I really want people to get out of guilt and shame and frustration and fear about not being able to be the full answer. God's the full answer. He always has been, and He brought the full answer through Christ to take care of everything. And just do your part the best you can. Stay slow, breathe, do your part, and whatever happens, whatever outcomes happen, don't be so on the side of the outcome of what happens. Be on the side of just doing your part well and trusting that God will do His part well. Otherwise, when we stay in fear and guilt and shame, we're basically saying God is not good. He is not strong enough to take care of everything and hold up the world and maintain everything without us. We're stronger than Him. And then we find out, no, we're not stronger than Him, that we're lacking too. And so the world is a place of hell. And that wasn't the intention. The world is a place of learning and tests, temporary things happening. It's a fallen state. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be nice all the time. But there will be genuine things that are wonderful from it. And we can grow characteristics that will last forever. And that is the point. All right. Love you all. I'll try to give you updates as I can today. It's probably going to be a little more difficult, but I'll do my best. And I hope this really has encouraged all of you. With all my heart, thank you for all of your support and all of your prayers. They make a huge difference. All right. Bye for now.